it just feels like it's getting worse and worse, doesn't it? For many people, I think the idea of abuse here in the UK, in charity shops, which we go into, many people volunteer and work in, feels like, my goodness, it's everywhere through this organisation.
Absolutely. I mean, we talked yesterday about the allegations maybe being the tip of the iceberg, and those words have proved to be true. It feels like there has been a very systemic problem, but not only a problem of this sort of abuse happening, but also people turning a blind eye to it. And last night there was a very powerful interview on Channel 4 News from a woman called Helen Evans. She was the head of safeguarding, and she says she raised these concerns repeatedly. She raised issues about the number of field workers who had seen, you know, sex for aid essentially being kind of put, put on the table, but also abuse of young volunteers in stores in the UK. And she was ignored. She was meant to do a presentation, and then suddenly that was stopped at the last minute.
She resigned, didn't she?
She did resign over
because they wouldn't listen,
I believe. They would not listen. She feels, as a whistleblower, her cries fell on deaf ears.
Tom, interestingly, and Ayesha says it yesterday, we were talking about, you know, people losing faith in a charity when they hear stuff like this. We had the lady from the Charities Commission, who didn't take too kindly, just repeatedly saying, you knew about this 6 years ago, patently didn't do anything. You talk about responsibility. Yesterday, the Deputy Chief Executive of Oxfam resigned. I just have one question, which everybody was talking about this morning. How does Mark Goldring carry on then? Surely his resignation should come instantly over this, shouldn't it? He's the man at the top.
Yeah, and I think that still may come in the days ahead. I think Oxfam are on a survival mission at the moment, and you know they may not make it through. Day after day, more stuff comes out. Now, Mark Goldring says he's not going because he wasn't in charge at the time. His deputy was, in fact, the programme director during these appalling incidents in Haiti, the prostitute orgies, etc. at the time. So she had direct responsibility. The Oxfam shop allegations, as Ayesha was just saying from Helen Evans last night, taking it on a bit more.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, the wider picture in all this is there were people, and it turns out an awful lot of people around the world, perhaps even in Oxfam shops as well, using the good name of the charity to get away with most extraordinary events. We've got an interview with a chap called Andrew McLeod in our paper this morning, who I think you're talking to later.
Yeah, he's joining us after 7, yeah.
Former very senior UN official, now a campaigner against sex abuse in the charity sector. And he has an extraordinary line to us, which was, if you wear a UNICEF T-shirt, you can get away with anything. No one asks you what you're doing, which is truly
Which
terrifying.
destroys people's faith in what is essentially a great charity, but this is just getting worse and worse.
And the thing well, there's many things that break your heart over this, isn't it? We're talking about a lot of money, £409 million income Oxfam has. A big chunk of that, 108 million, comes from pure donations, 91 million from shops. That's got to go down, and the people that are going to suffer are the people that money is meant to help, the people, some of the most vulnerable people in the world that are not going to get aid at all now.
Absolutely, but also there's going to be another unintended consequence, which I think the entire charity sector is going to take a hit, because I think a lot of people think, well, if it's happening in Oxfam, it might be happening other places. I watched an interview last night with a very small charity, somebody who runs a charity, and they said they're scared that they're going to, you know, take a hit now. So I think, you know, the word trust is gold dust in these
and
types
transparency,
of, absolutely.
I guess. And that's going to be massively important in the days and weeks ahead, isn't it?
One point I'd like to just make a broader point, which is when you see the scandals that have happened with sex abuse, whether it's from the Catholic Church to the Harvey Weinstein to what's happening in Westminster to now the charity sector, you do have to ask yourself a very troubling, dark question, which is what is the levels of abuse that is going on in our society? Britain, we pride ourselves as being this kind of progressive, you know, kind of good society, a decent, civilised society. And I think now there are serious questions. If people are vulnerable and can be exploited, it looks like they are exploited, whether it's in Oxfam shops or whether it's people doing good work in war-torn areas. I think there is an endemic problem with this kind of abuse.